doing, Kyle? Big time win, Gary's World, baby. I know you're feeling good about that. Just your first thoughts. Niners beat the Cowboys on Sunday. What just stood out to you?
That the Niners were the way better team, at least on Sunday. I thought they pretty thoroughly outplayed Dallas, and if Garoppolo doesn't throw that pick, you're probably looking at like a 26-7 or 30-7 type of win. And that's a Dallas team that a lot of smart people thought were going to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl. So if you didn't feel good about the 49ers chances going in, I think you have to feel even at least a little bit better about their chances to go in and upset Green Bay now.
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, me and James had talked about this, and I just looked at what they did on Sunday against the Cowboys, and it played out essentially like I thought it would. I thought it was a bad matchup for the Cowboys. I thought the 49ers, if the Cowboys couldn't stop them from running, they weren't going to win. And I know we're going to preview it later in the week, but I kind of feel that way about this Packers game. The big X factor, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. But on Sunday, that's really what it was. The Niners imposed their will at both ends of the line, on the defensive line and the offensive line, and the Cowboys just weren't ready for that.
I don't know, and that just goes to show how poorly coached the Cowboys are. And the Packers are not that poorly coached. Like, the Packers are going to be ready in a way that the Cowboys were not. I mean, you said it. There's not a secret about what the 49ers are going to do. They're going to run the ball and they're going to rush the passer. Like, those are the two things that they want to do. And Dallas didn't do, like, Kenny, we talked about last Friday. We talked about what do the Niners do when when Dallas goes quick game. They did none of that. Everything was like intermediate to deep against a good Niners pass rush, even without Nick Bosa. So I was stunned by how unprepared Dallas looked, even though I'm not a big Mike McCarthy believer. But that said, Green Bay is not going to be as ill prepared. But the Niners formula is what it is. They're going to run the football and they're going to try and get after the quarterback. And if they do those two things, they're really, really hard to beat, even with limitations under center.
Kyle, the last time these two teams played, the 49ers only hit Rodgers once. Twice. They only sacked him once. And then we see what they just did to Dak, where, again, like 14 quarterback hits, 5 sacks. Are we seeing a different Niners team this time around, or do the Packers have a formula to slow down that defensive rush?
I think a little bit of both. I think that Aaron Rodgers is so good at getting rid of the football. And like I said, they're going to be prepared with quick throws. That helps mitigate the pass rush a little bit. But this is also a much different 49ers defense now. You'll remember in that Packers game, Emmanuel Mosley, that was his first game of the year, coming off a calf injury, I think it was in the offseason. K'Wan Williams got hurt early, so it was Diamador Lenore. I think Josh Norman started on the other side. I think that's right. It's not the same secondary. Ambry Thomas is a legitimate NFL starter now. I don't know if he's like a Pro Bowler, but he's not a liability. Emmanuel Mosley's playing a lot better, and K'Wan Williams is healthy. So I think that their secondary is better. Their pass rush has been more effective lately, just against the Rams and the Cowboys. So two pretty good offensive lines. So I think their pass rush is definitely better. I think they'll affect Rodgers more than they did in week 3. But Green Bay is going to game plan around that in a way that Dallas didn't. So I think their pass rush can affect the game, but I don't know that it can dominate the way it did against Dallas.
Kyle, I've been a proponent of these guys all year long. I've stuck my neck out there all year long. That 49ers secondary, I know everything starts up front with the pressure that you get on Dak and all the other quarterbacks. But I mean, can they get some roses now? Because I actually heard a crazy stat that I didn't even know until this week, where this 49ers defense has held opposing quarterbacks under their average passing yards 14 of the 17 games throughout the season, and they did it again on Sunday. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I know the defensive line is the catalyst. I think that's the best unit on the team, period. But the Mosleys, the Wards, the Tarts, I know everybody talks about how that secondary is suspect. I think they should get some flowers here. They performed better than I think people give them credit for.
Yeah, they've definitely gotten better. But to your point, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a difference maker. It doesn't matter. Sure. It doesn't matter who your secondary is, right? Like you could have prime Deion Sanders and Darrelle Revis, and Aaron Rodgers is going to figure out ways to complete passes against you. So, no, the secondary's been better though. Like you're spot on with that. I would have disagreed for most of the year, but what they've done the last couple of weeks, especially, has been super impressive. And I don't think that there's any way to deny that. Like they were good enough the last 2 weeks that I don't think that that's going to be the thing that stops them from winning at this point. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Kyle, the last time these two teams played, again, we saw Adams have, I think it was 12 catches. He was absolutely dominant. And the whole game, you're sitting there wondering, why don't they just try to take him away? Number one, is there a way to take him away? And then number two, can anyone else on that team beat you if you are able to take him away?
Yeah, the Alan Lazards, the Marquez Valdez-Scantlings, like they're not the Randall Cobbs, they're not going to none of those guys are going to have 12 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they're going to be effective enough. Like I think it was Alan Lazard just had like a easy slot fade for a huge gain against K'Wan Williams in that first game where Rodgers just hit the back of his drop and threw it up and Lazard went and got it. Yeah. Like he has that kind of connection with those receivers that, I mean, they can still affect you, but if you're playing well enough that you're limiting Davante Adams, I don't think I think that's a wrap for Green Bay. If Davante Adams isn't having a huge game, it means the Niners are doing a lot of things right. And I don't think the other receivers are going to matter because Davante Adams is going to get his the same way. Like Cooper Kupp, I think, what do you have? 8 for like $118 and a touchdown against the Niners. That's kind of like, all right, like if you can hold Davante Adams to that, you're doing a pretty good job. So I do think though that the Niners, it's not like, yeah, put 3 guys on Davante Adams and let everybody else go man across the board because those other guys can win. And that's where the conundrum is with the Packers is their quarterback's so good that you take one guy away, he's going to beat you where you're soft.
Kyle Madson, 95.7 The Game, Niners Wire, Candlestick Chronicles, joining myself and James Ham here on D-Lo and KC. Kyle, I got a theory. I think this is something that opposing teams and opposing coaches maybe have to guard against. Do you think the 49ers are in the heads of opposing teams? And here's what I say, what I mean when I say that. I feel like the Cowboys were so intent on not getting bullied by the 49ers. They weren't mentally in tune with what they were supposed to do. They wanted to be physical. Oh, I'm from where the bullies get bullied. Anthony Joshua, all this other talk, right? The big Meaches and all that, right? They were so focused on we're not going to get bullied that they lost track of what they're supposed to do mentally. And the Niners, that's kind of their game. Like they're not out there necessarily saying we're gonna be bullies. That's just how they play. They don't have to say it. Like that's just what they do. And I could see a similar situation now going into this Packers game where these guys get caught up. Oh, last time they're not running for 280 yards on assist time. We gonna bring the fight to them, and they just kind of get caught up in that nonsense instead of actually staying focused on what they try to do. So, do you think they kind of get in teams' heads at this point with their style of play?
They definitely did with Dallas. Like Dallas for the first quarter and a half, it was like, did these guys watch film? Did these guys did they watch anything? Did they study at all? They were going the wrong way. They were getting caught up on blocks. They were biting on every fake. It just looked like the Niners were going to just be able to kind of run for 5 or 6 yards of carry all day. And they did a little bit. Dallas eventually adjusted, but again, I don't think Green Bay is that poorly coached that they're going to let that happen. It might happen here and there where there's a misstep and a run gets broken by, Deebo Samuel or Eli Mitchell. The bigger deal with Green Bay, more than the Niners being in their heads, is that Green Bay hasn't had to play a real game in like 3 weeks. because they rested their starters for I think a half or more than a half in week 18. They had a bye last week. The week before that, they rolled, I think it was against Minnesota. It was just kind of like they didn't have to do anything for a month. And so now they've got to get back and they've got to play in a playoff intensity game against a team that is going to punch you in the mouth. Like that's the Niners MO in a league where defenses are getting smaller and quicker and the game's going horizontal. The 49ers, the 49ers are figuring out a way to play that finesse game a little bit while also running a kind of old school power type of football.
Kyle's cat has joined the chat, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Now,
this is Patrick Willis, by the way.
Patrick Willis.
Kyle, when you look at the style of play that the Niners are playing, we talk about sort of the smash mouth, but really it is a lot of end arounds. They do a lot of tricky runs. It's not just straight up beat you up the middle, pound and pound. Do you think that works in this type of cold weather? You think that it might even be an advantage that, as opposed to a huge passing game, the Niners use their wide receivers in a different way and try to break you down, from the edges and then pound you inside with Mitchell and for some reason Debo. I'm not sure why Debo's running up the middle. I don't want that ever. I don't want to ever see that happen again.
That's a wild. He's done that multiple times. Like they've closed out games with Debo Samuel just running it up the middle. Did Jeff Wilson do something? Where did Jeff Wilson go?
Jesus.
I don't like Elijah Mitchell's been hurt 5 different injuries for Elijah Mitchell this year, and they're still running him 27 times. Like, Jeff Wilson's not bad. Jeff Wilson can get 8 of those carries, for sure.
Yeah. Or 4. Or even 4.
Yeah, that's fine too. Maybe I'm shooting too high with 8.
Yeah, just don't run Debo up the middle. Come on, man.
I get like why they want to do that to just give defenses something else to look at, but it happens a lot. It happens too much. But to your point, it travels well, especially in the cold. Like that's one of the things with Derrick Henry is his splits are so tilted toward the second half because like human nature takes over. And when you're cold and you're hurting, it becomes a lot more difficult to just ram into another person. And you second guess. I mean, you're not going to step away and not try and tackle Eli Mitchell, but you're going to take a little bit different angle, or maybe you're going to go in with an arm tackle when in the first quarter you would have gone in full body. So I think that is something that the Niners are going to try and do. And it wouldn't surprise me if their offense gets off to kind of a slow start because they're trying to just establish that early. They're trying to just run into the Packers defense as much as they can. And okay, maybe they punt a few times early, but it's going to open up some things later because that defense is going to be tired and they're going to not going to want to be tackling and running into offensive linemen and getting hit by Kyle Juszczyk and then George Kittle as Debo Samuel turns the corner. Now you got to tackle Debo Samuel. Yeah. It sounds exhausting. and I think that weighs on teams for sure. And I think that's why you see the Niners stick with the run game against LA. Like a team goes down 17-0, like scrap the run game and throw it is the typical move. But the Niners know that that's going to wear down on teams eventually. And we saw it. They started really rolling on the ground and went on to win that game. So I do think that that's going to be a factor. Like, and that's why I think the Niners have any chance to make a run because defense travels and run games travel, especially in the cold.
Kyle Madson, Candlestick Chronicles, Niners Wire, 95.7 a game here on D-Lo and KC. Myself, Kenny Caraway, and James Ham riding today. Is George Kittle ever going to be a receiving tight end again?
Ever again? He's just done?
Is Kyle just done with him being a receiving tight end? He's just turned himself into an offensive lineman. I'm being a little facetious, but I mean, is this the game that maybe they start getting the ball to George, or are they just fixated on this kind of thing works right now? Let's not force that, and let's have him be a blocker a lot of the time.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan said something really interesting yesterday, basically that they're not throwing it to Kittle because teams are aiming to take him away, and it's opening things up for other players. I don't think it's a coincidence that as Kittle's production's gone down, you've seen Ayuk emerge, you've seen Jawan Jennings emerge, and that's something that Kyle Shanahan's like, that's been his MO. Remember, even in 2018 and 2019, Kittle would have these like huge first halves and then have one catch in the second half because teams adjust and take them away. And that's Kyle Shanahan's MO. He's going to, okay, you're taking away this thing. That means you're going to be weak in this other area. And he's going to try and attack that weakness, even if it means they're not throwing the ball to George Kittle. So unless the Packers don't have a way to guard Kittle or they don't game plan around number 85, I just don't think that he's going to get a ton of looks. And maybe the Niners go out of their way to try and get him some because that physical brand of football is so effective in the cold. But I don't think we're going to see any 15 target, 12 catch games from Kittle anytime soon.
Kyle, we watched the one big mistake almost cost the 49ers by Jimmy Garoppolo. Can the 49ers against a team like the Packers, can they survive more than one like pretty tremendous mistake by him? Or do you think that they still have, with the run game, with the defense, they still have the team to stay in a game and take a blow like that?
I think that you can survive one. It depends a little bit on where it is and when it is and kind of what the score is too. The fact that they were already up 23-10 when Garoppolo threw that pick and their defense was already rolling, like, okay, you can survive that. But if Green Bay, if they're not getting pressure on Rodgers and Green Bay is just kind of moving the ball at will, I think you have to play mistake free. Like that's just not going to work. Because Green Bay is going to take that and then they're going to go down and score. and if they're going to force Garoppolo to make throws, which is something that we've seen, like Seattle did it in Seattle, and they took away the run game and said they're going to go man on the outside and beat us, Jimmy. And he threw 2 picks. And I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay tries something similar, especially in the cold, especially with an injured thumb. Don't know how that's going to react in the frigid weather. He's got a sprained shoulder now. How's that going to react when it's cold? I just you can't make a lot of mistakes against Green Bay, and that's whether you're a good team or not. That's a good way to lose to them.
Kyle, real quick before we get you out of here, what happened in that Raiders game with the whistle being blown, the Joe Burrow touchdown? Fair or foul in that situation for the Raiders? That's
foul for the Raiders. And a clown show by the officials. Like this isn't a judgment call. This isn't, they threw a pass interference flag and I didn't think it was pass interference, or they should have called a hold and they didn't. It's not that. They failed to execute the rules properly. And I know that people are saying, like, because it did blow very late and it was going to be a touchdown, whether the inadvertent whistle blew or not. Trevon Merrick wasn't going to knock the pass down and then heard the whistle and stopped. So I get that, like, the spirit of the rule, the refs probably did the right thing, but that's not the rules. That's not how it works, man. Yeah. So I think Raiders fans complain too much about officials. It's like, no, you're just a bad team and bad teams commit penalties. That's been the case in the past, but this time they actually got screwed. Like, they got hosed big time.
Yeah, that one sucked. Oh, well.
Really broken up about
Raiders.
I'm sorry.
And they still almost won. They still, like, and here's the other thing with the Raiders.
I think they're super resilient. I appreciate that about them.
Yeah, and they still could have won that game despite the fact that their issue is they didn't punch in touchdowns when they had opportunities early in the game. Like, that was their problem. Their defense in the second half. If you only showed me the Raiders defensive possessions in the second half, I'd be like, oh man, they won. Like, they definitely won that game. But they didn't.
Yeah.
I know you're pretty broken up about it, Kenny.
We'll see what happens next year. It's going to be a whole new era in Las Vegas next year, it seems like. So, Kyle, I appreciate you doing a little overtime, a little double duty this week, because you're coming back later this week. That's just the way it is.
When I tell people, like, if I do a podcast hit or whatever, and I say anytime, I don't mean anytime. Like, wait a little bit. But if you guys have, I'm in anytime. Just let me know.
I appreciate you, big dog. Kyle Madson, 95.7 The Game, Candlestick Chronicles, Prince of Niners Wire, here on with D-Lo and KC.